Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. This is not going to be a movie review, this is actually going to be a theatre play review. And so I haven't done one of these before, and I thought it was definitely something you guys might want to hear about, so here it is. So last night I saw this with my wife in the Canberra Theatre, and this is Jakop Ahlbom's Horror. Now this is an Amsterdam production, but the director is actually Swedish, and it started its circuit in 2016 in London, and since then it's gained a lot of recognition. And so it's basically about three friends who stumble upon this house that has been haunted by the past. Now in the past, these two sisters were systematically abused by their parents, and since then the anger and the cruelty has stayed behind. And so this anger and cruelty is about to infect these friends, and they're about to go on a nightmarish journey, and so the audience are going to go with them. And to prevent myself from giving away too much, if you want to know how this play unfolds, please go out there and see it for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Jakop Ahlbom's Horror. I actually thought this was a worthwhile experience, but unfortunately at the end of the day this is a play that is victim of its own ambition. And that was something that was a little bit disappointing, because a lot of people have said that this is a masterpiece of horror, that this is absolutely terrifying, that it's going to appeal to a lot of horror fans, and I can agree with that to some extent, but unfortunately this is a play that tries a lot, but the ambition really does weigh it down to some degree, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But what I liked about this play, that the production was absolutely phenomenal, the acting was phenomenal. This is a very artistic sort of feel, because it does have very minimal dialogue, and with very minimal dialogue the emphasis is on the body language of these actors. And I thought that the story was told in such an expert fashion that I didn't need dialogue to know what was going on. And so the actual play interweaves current times with the flashbacks, and I thought the flashbacks were used in a way that I haven't seen before. And as I said, I'm not a seasoned veteran as far as theatre is concerned, but I really enjoyed the way that this story was told. And so that's something that's going to appeal to a lot of people. And what I like most about this play was the fact that it's a homage to horror fans. This is taking a lot of inspiration from the horror movies, and it's actually giving you a live sort of feel. It's a live nightmare that is transpiring through before your very eyes. There's shades of The Exorcist, there's shades of The Ring, there's shades of classic haunted ghost stories, there's shades of The Evil Dead. And so it interweaves all of those aspects, and it just makes an exercise in carnage, an exercise in everything that we fear. And the fear is actually translated very well through very good sound design. The set designs were absolutely phenomenal, and the special effects were second to none. I was in fact scratching my head thinking, how the hell did they do that? Now you've seen special effects in movies, and that's a lot easier because you take your time in actually doing it. But in a stage production, the way that they did the special effects I thought was absolutely phenomenal. And at stages you don't really know that this is a play, you kind of get lost in it and you think this is a movie. And so that's the way the level of professionalism in this play was absolutely outstanding. And so I think that the director and everyone involved, especially the actors, can take a bow, because it really does hit you and you get absorbed into actually what is going on. And so there's funny moments as well that I really liked, and there is a lot of bloodthirsty moments. So if you are a fan of bloodshed, then you're definitely going to like this play. And that's something that I think is paying respect to horror fans, is that this is everything that horror is. It's a nightmare. You've got shades of classic horror films that have just inspired this director to make something that is not a carbon copy. It's not ripping it off, but it is very different. But it's a clear indication that this is a horror fan, and he's paying respect to horror instead of just mocking horror. And a lot of people out there do mock horror, and they say that this is a genre that is just pathetic. But the way that this play is actually produced, I just thought it was a very good way to spend 80 minutes. And so I really enjoyed a lot of what Jakop Ahlbom's Horror delivered. I thought that it was a very smart sort of production, and as I said, the way it interweaves flashbacks with current times, I thought it was very, very smart, and so that was something I really, really liked. But unfortunately, I think it does become a victim of its own ambition. Now, this is a silent sort of play that's very, very minimal dialogue, so as I said, it really does emphasize the body language, and to keep the audience interested, this is where the frequency of the horror becomes a little bit of a problem, is that, okay, you can't really get absorbed in the dialogue, and the body language and the miming can only take you so far. So you need to throw chills and thrills galore in order to capture the audience, and the audience does become captured, but because it's such at a high frequency, you do become a little bit desensitized to it. And this is the best way I can sum this up in an analogy kind of way, is that it's like when you're practicing baseball for the very first time and you throw the ball and the next day you're very sore, but the more you do it, the less impact it has, and you start to get used to it, and because you're accustomed to it, you're not feeling that pain. And that's the best way I can sum up Jakop Ahlbom's Horror, is that straight from the start there's a horror set piece and you think, wow, that took me off guard, but then it happens again and again and again and again and again, and then you start to think, all right, well, I'm becoming accustomed to this, and this, because I'm not as scared as I really should be, it's becoming a little bit repetitive, and it does drag a little bit because it's something that you feel you've seen before. And so there are hauntings that happen, there are screams, there's this monster-like person that comes through, and I think to myself, all right, well, I've seen this before, and it's not really continuing on, it's not snowballing to something that I can actually feel as though it's not Groundhog Day. And so that's the biggest problem with this play, is that it does become victim of its own ambition. Is that, yes, on one hand it's very artistic, but the artistic value requires something to keep your interest, and the horror set pieces will keep your interest, but because they're so thick and fast, I thought that, okay, it's not scaring me as much as it scared me the first time. So I thought the ending was very good. There's a scene at the end that I thought was outstanding, and once again, a lot of bloodthirsty fans will appreciate that. And at the end of the day, as I said, this is a play that is very good, but it's not the horror masterpiece a lot of people make it out to be. But if you are a fan of horror, especially horror films, and you haven't seen too many theatre plays, Jakop Ahlbom's horror will definitely appeal to you. I think this was an absolutely fascinating play to look at, and it kept me absorbed for 80 minutes. It never really derails itself, but as I said, the repetitive nature in the horror set pieces could have been improved a little bit if there's a little bit more of a build-up. But having said that, because it's a mime sort of play, too much of a build-up could actually get a little bit boring, and maybe the audience would have checked out well before the horror sets in. So it's kind of like a circle where if you improve on one little thing, maybe another bad little thing will come out, and so you really can't win. And so for that, I can't say it's a major criticism, but it's still a play that I think was worth the time. So overall, for Jakop Ahlbom's horror, I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.